My beloved child. Before this moment ends, I want you to imagine something that almost nobody ever believes until the evidence appears in front of them. Somewhere, behind doors you have never opened and names you have never heard, a family with unimaginable wealth has spent years searching for one missing piece that vanished long ago. They have crossed cities, studied forgotten records, followed broken trails, and reopened stories everyone else abandoned. The strange part is not the search itself, the strange part is how every path keeps leading toward the same unknown person. Stay until the end, because what happens next will completely change the direction of this story. Every clue that looked meaningless on its own suddenly begins connecting together like a puzzle that was waiting for only one final piece. Don't skip, because the biggest revelation has not arrived yet. There is an old saying among investigators that the truth hides in ordinary places, and this story proves exactly why. A faded photograph, a forgotten signature, a date that nobody questioned, each of them looked worthless until they were placed side by side. Then everything changed. The people leading this search realized they had not been looking for money at all, they had been looking for a person whose existence could explain an entire family's unfinished history. Something huge is waiting for you as this mystery unfolds, because every answer uncovers an even greater question. The closer they came to solving it, the more impossible the truth appeared. It was never about finding someone famous. It was about finding the one person nobody expected to exist. But here is where this story becomes unforgettable. Just when everyone believed the search had reached a dead end, an unexpected discovery appeared from a place nobody thought to examine. A single forgotten detail connected every missing chapter together and pointed toward an identity hidden in plain sight. Suddenly, people who had spent years searching realized they were only one step away from uncovering a secret capable of rewriting everything they believed. Don't skip, because the next chapter reveals why this discovery frightened some people, amazed others, and made the entire search more urgent than ever before. The moment that hidden truth is revealed, nothing in this story will ever look the same again. Everything accelerated after that discovery. The search team stopped chasing distant possibilities and focused on one extraordinary pattern that refused to disappear. Every record they uncovered echoed the same forgotten story, as if time itself had been protecting a secret until the right moment. The billionaire family realized they had overlooked the most obvious clue because it appeared too ordinary to matter. Yet the smallest detail became the strongest evidence. Stay until the end, because the next revelation changes the entire meaning of everything you've heard so far. What once seemed like coincidence now looked like a carefully hidden trail that had been waiting for someone patient enough to follow it. The deeper they investigated, the more remarkable the picture became. Old journals, overlooked documents, and conversations that had been dismissed years ago suddenly aligned perfectly. Each answer unlocked another hidden layer, revealing that this was never just about wealth or status, it was about restoring a missing chapter of a family's legacy. Something huge is waiting for you, because the people leading the search began preparing for a meeting they never thought would happen. They knew that once the final piece was confirmed, there would be no turning back. Every passing hour increased the urgency, and every new clue pointed toward a conclusion that felt almost impossible to believe. Don't skip, because the final discovery is closer than ever. Then came the moment that left everyone speechless. A sealed file, untouched for years, was finally opened, and inside was information that matched every clue collected throughout the investigation. The room fell silent as each page confirmed what had once seemed unbelievable. The search was no longer based on hope, it was based on certainty. But one final confirmation was still missing, and without it, the story could not be completed. That last confirmation is connected to a place, a memory, and a decision that nobody expected. The next chapter reveals why the billionaire family believes they are only one step away from ending the search that has defined their lives for years, and why the greatest surprise is still waiting ahead. A quiet meeting was arranged in a place that carried no signs, no grand entrance, and no indication that history was about to change. The people gathered there had spent years separating facts from rumors, yet for the first time they all shared the same feeling: this search was finally reaching its destination. One final folder remained unopened on the table. Nobody rushed to touch it. They understood that once its contents were revealed, there would be no returning to the mystery that had consumed so many years. Don't skip, because what seemed like the ending was actually the beginning of an even greater revelation. As the folder was opened, every page connected with the clues that had been scattered throughout this incredible journey. Names matched. Dates aligned. Forgotten memories suddenly made perfect sense. Yet one detail stood out above everything else. Hidden between ordinary records was a handwritten note that had survived decades without anyone recognizing its importance. It didn't mention riches or power. Instead, it spoke about a promise, that one day the missing heir would be found not because of luck, but because every unanswered question would eventually lead to the truth. Stay until the end, because this promise changed the atmosphere in the room completely. The billionaire family realized they had never been chasing an inheritance alone. They had been protecting a legacy meant to reach the right person at the right moment. Then, just as everyone believed the mystery had been solved, an unexpected message arrived. It contained a detail that none of the investigators had ever seen before, forcing them to pause everything. The excitement instantly turned into suspense. If this new information was genuine, it meant there was one final obstacle standing between the family and the person they had searched for all these years. Every previous clue had prepared them for this moment, but nobody was ready for what the next revelation would expose. Something huge is waiting for you, because the final chapter uncovers why the search became more urgent than ever, and why the truth they are about to face is even more astonishing than the mystery itself. The final stage of the search did not begin with celebration. It began with silence. Every document had been verified, every unanswered question had finally received an answer, yet one decision remained. The billionaire family understood that finding the missing heir was only half of the journey. The greater challenge was making sure the truth reached the right person before another opportunity disappeared forever. Don't skip, because the next few moments reveal why this entire story unfolded exactly when it did. Every delay, every unexpected turn, and every forgotten clue had quietly led to a single destination that no one could have predicted from the beginning. One by one, the final pieces were placed together. The old photograph, the handwritten promise, the forgotten records, and the mysterious message all pointed toward the same conclusion. The search had never been driven by fortune alone. It had been driven by hope that one day a missing chapter would finally be restored. As everyone looked at the complete picture, they realized something remarkable. The greatest treasure was never the wealth itself. It was discovering the truth that had remained hidden for so long. Stay until the end, because the biggest surprise is still waiting. Just when everything appeared complete, another sealed envelope was placed on the table with instructions that no one had seen before. The room became completely still as it was carefully opened. Inside was a final message that transformed the entire meaning of the search. It revealed that the legacy was never meant to change one person's future alone, it was meant to restore a story that generations believed had been lost forever. In that moment, every doubt disappeared, every mystery found its answer, and every clue finally made perfect sense. What began as an impossible search ended as an unforgettable discovery that nobody in the room would ever forget. Yet the greatest lesson remained clear: extraordinary opportunities often arrive quietly, hidden inside ordinary moments, waiting for someone willing to recognize them before they pass by. And with that realization, the search that once seemed endless finally came to its remarkable conclusion. Long after the documents had been organized and the excitement had settled, one question continued echoing through everyone's mind. Why had this incredible story remained hidden for so many years? The answer wasn't found inside another vault or another forgotten record. It was hidden in a decision made decades earlier by someone who believed that truth should never be rushed. That choice delayed everything, but it also protected the legacy until every missing piece was ready to fit together. Don't skip, because the final layer of this mystery reveals something no one expected. The ending wasn't written by wealth. It was written by patience. As the family reflected on everything they had uncovered, they realized that every obstacle had served a purpose. Every false lead had eliminated confusion. Every delay had preserved the truth. Every unexpected discovery had quietly guided them toward the same destination. What once looked like random events now formed a perfect sequence, proving that the smallest details often carry the greatest significance. Something huge is waiting for you, because one final discovery was still left unopened. It wasn't another legal paper or another family record. It was a handwritten journal explaining why the missing heir was never supposed to be found through shortcuts. The search itself was the proof that the story deserved to be completed the right way. When the last page of that journal was read, silence filled the room once again. The search had officially ended, but its meaning had grown far beyond a single family. It became a reminder that hidden truths often remain invisible until every necessary piece falls into place. The billionaire family's greatest victory was not reclaiming a legacy, it was finally completing a story that had remained unfinished for generations. And as everyone walked away from that room, they understood that some of life's most extraordinary discoveries do not arrive with loud announcements. They arrive quietly, after years of persistence, revealing that the impossible was simply waiting for the right moment to become reality. The story was supposed to be over, yet something unexpected happened after everyone believed the final chapter had already been written. As the family prepared to close the investigation forever, one elderly advisor quietly placed a small wooden box on the table. No one remembered seeing it before. It had remained untouched for years because nobody possessed the key that belonged to it. Now, for the first time, the lock could finally be opened. Don't skip, because what was hidden inside was never meant to impress anyone, it was meant to answer the one question that had remained unanswered from the very beginning. Inside the box was neither gold nor jewelry. Instead, there was a collection of simple personal items that carried extraordinary meaning. A faded photograph with familiar faces. A handwritten letter filled with hope rather than wealth. A small keepsake that had been carefully preserved through generations. Together, these items revealed something no legal document ever could. They showed that the family's greatest treasure had never been measured by fortune, but by the promise that one day every missing connection would be restored. Stay until the end, because the final message inside that box changed the emotions of everyone present. For the first time, they understood that the search had always been about belonging, not possession. Then came the last surprise. Folded beneath the letter was a sealed note that ended with a single sentence. The legacy is complete only when its story is remembered. Those words transformed the entire journey. Every mystery, every clue, every delay, and every unexpected turn suddenly felt meaningful. The billionaire family's search had not only uncovered a hidden past, it had preserved a story that could have disappeared forever. And just when they thought there were no more discoveries left to make, they realized the greatest inheritance was never something that could be counted. It was the truth that would continue to inspire every generation that heard this remarkable story. A year later, people still spoke about the search, but not because of the fortune that had been uncovered. They spoke about the extraordinary chain of events that had connected strangers, restored forgotten memories, and completed a story that once seemed impossible to finish. Every person involved realized they had witnessed something that could never be repeated in exactly the same way. Don't skip, because one final mystery remained hidden beneath everything that had already been revealed. Just when it seemed there was nothing left to discover, another unexpected detail quietly came to light. While organizing the family's historical archive, an old historian noticed a symbol appearing again and again across different generations. It wasn't a family crest or a mark of wealth. It represented a promise that every generation had chosen to protect. Leave the truth untouched until the right moment arrives. Suddenly, everyone understood why the search had taken so many years. The delays were not accidents. They had preserved the story until every missing piece could finally stand together without doubt or confusion. Stay until the end, because this realization gave the entire journey a completely new meaning. The search had never been racing against time, it had been waiting for time to complete the picture. As the final archive was carefully sealed, the family looked around the room one last time. There were no celebrations, no grand speeches, and no dramatic endings. There was only quiet gratitude for a story that had finally reached its rightful conclusion. The mystery that began with uncertainty had ended with clarity, proving that the greatest discoveries are often hidden behind patience, perseverance, and the courage to keep searching when others have already stopped. And although the investigation had officially come to an end, everyone carried the same thought with them as they walked away. Some legacies are remembered not because of the wealth they contain, but because of the remarkable journey required to uncover the truth. The doors to the archive closed quietly, but the story refused to end there. Weeks later, a private gathering was held where only a handful of trusted people were invited. They believed it would simply be a meeting to preserve history, yet an unexpected announcement changed the atmosphere instantly. One final record had been discovered after the investigation officially ended. It had been stored separately, hidden so carefully that even experienced researchers had overlooked it for years. Don't skip, because this final discovery didn't rewrite the story. It revealed why every chapter had unfolded exactly as it did from the very beginning. As the record was read aloud, everyone realized that the search had never depended on chance. Every clue had appeared only after the previous one had been understood. Every delay had prevented the wrong conclusion. Every unexpected obstacle had quietly protected the truth until it could no longer be misunderstood. Something huge is waiting for you, because the final record explained that the family's greatest achievement was not recovering a forgotten legacy. It was ensuring that honesty, patience, and perseverance guided every step of the journey. What seemed like impossible coincidences were actually moments that only made sense when viewed together. The meeting ended without applause, without headlines, and without celebration. Instead, everyone left carrying the same realization. The greatest stories are not remembered because they are unbelievable, but because they remind people that truth can remain hidden for years before revealing itself at exactly the right time. The billionaire family's search was finally complete, yet its legacy had only just begun. Those who heard the full story understood that the real inheritance was never measured by riches alone. It was the courage to keep searching, the wisdom to recognize the truth when it appeared, and the patience to wait until every missing piece found its rightful place. The story had reached its conclusion, yet one final chapter remained untouched. Months after the search officially ended, the family's oldest legal advisor requested a private gathering. He carried a sealed envelope that had never been opened because its instructions were unmistakable. Reveal only after every question has been answered. The room fell completely silent. Everyone believed they already knew the entire truth, but the expression on his face suggested otherwise. Don't skip, because the last revelation wasn't about changing the past. It was about understanding why every event had unfolded with such remarkable precision. As the envelope was carefully opened, a single handwritten page emerged. It wasn't a financial record or another piece of evidence. It was a personal message written by the family member who had first recognized that the legacy might one day become lost. The message explained that true inheritance was never meant to be defined by wealth alone. A lasting legacy is built through character, trust, and the willingness to protect what matters even when nobody is watching. Suddenly, every delay, every hidden clue, and every unexpected turn carried a deeper meaning. Stay until the end, because this final message completed the journey in a way no one had imagined. The search had not only restored a family's history, it had preserved the values that gave that history its purpose. When the meeting ended, no one rushed to speak. They quietly looked around the room, realizing they had witnessed the closing chapter of an extraordinary story that would be remembered for generations. The mystery that once seemed impossible had become a timeless reminder that the greatest discoveries often arrive only after patience, determination, and hope have done their work. As the lights were turned off and the final archive was secured, everyone carried the same realization with them. Some stories begin with questions, continue through perseverance, and end by revealing that the greatest treasure was never hidden inside a vault, it was hidden inside the truth itself. Years passed, but the story never faded. It was shared quietly from one generation to the next, not because people were fascinated by the fortune, but because they were inspired by the journey. Those who studied the case noticed something extraordinary. Every major breakthrough had arrived only after someone refused to give up. The missing records, the forgotten memories, the hidden letters, and the final revelation all appeared at the exact moment they were needed. Don't skip, because there is one last truth that brings every chapter together into a single unforgettable ending. As the family reflected on everything they had experienced, they created a permanent record of the investigation so that the story would never be lost again. On the very first page they wrote a simple reminder: the greatest discoveries belong to those who continue searching when everyone else believes there is nothing left to find. Those words captured the heart of the entire journey. What began as an impossible search became a symbol of patience, determination, and hope. Stay until the end, because the final lesson is more valuable than any inheritance. Wealth can change over time, but truth, once uncovered, becomes a legacy that no generation can erase. And so the remarkable journey finally came to its true conclusion. The billionaire family's search was complete, every mystery had been answered, and every hidden chapter had found its rightful place. The archives were sealed, the promises were fulfilled, and the story that once existed only in whispers became a lasting reminder that extraordinary endings are built through countless ordinary moments. Long after the final document was filed away, people continued telling this story, not because of the fortune that was discovered, but because it proved that perseverance, integrity, and the courage to keep believing can bring even the most forgotten stories back into the light. That is how a mystery became a legacy, and how a search that seemed impossible was remembered forever.